welcome everyone to Poetry's Englishes in Asia and the Diaspora, a wonderful 3-day gathering of an amazing group of international poets. My name is Dorothy Wong, and I'm a visiting professor in the Department of English here at the Chinese University of Hong Kong this semester. Let me just briefly tell you the order of events just for the next few minutes. I'm going to speak, followed by the fellow co-organizers of this symposium, Elmo Gonzaga of the Center for Cultural Studies in the Department of Cultural Studies and Religious Studies, and finally Collier Nogus from the Department of English. So we're going to start things off. So there are many people that we would like to thank for making this special event possible, and I'm sure Elmo and Collier are also going to be thanking them. They'll be echoing my words of appreciation shortly. But let me just give a few shout outs to, first of all, to the CUHK staff, especially Nokus Young and Fancy Fan at the Center for Cultural Studies, Michelle Chung, Virginia Lowe, and everyone at the Department of English, our student helpers, especially Lily Chung, Paris Lau, and Roxanne Xing, as well as all the undergraduate and graduate students helping out throughout the conference, and you've probably seen them all already. Collier and I would also like to thank those who financially supported our 3-day event, Dean Max Yang and the Faculty of Arts, the Department of English and the head David Huddart, and of course the Center for Cultural Studies and Elmo Gonzaga. The conference would not be possible without their help and support. Last but definitely not least, I would like to thank my co-conspirator Collier Nogus for inviting me to come to teach at CUHK this term, first of all. Secondly, after we had cooked up the kooky idea of doing a conference during my stay here, for securing the funding to put on this international event. And finally, for doing a great deal of the hard nuts and bolts institutional labor, alongside the staff and students, to get us to where we are this morning. Needless to say, gathering a group of poets of this world-class caliber and bringing them to Hong Kong from the UK, Germany, the Philippines, Singapore, the United States, and even from within Hong Kong itself is a rare and very special thing. So I'm going to keep my opening remarks brief, since I know we're eager to hear from the poets themselves. So I'm just going to say a few things. Okay, so in 1952, a young man who had recently graduated from St. John's, an English language secondary school founded by American missionaries in Shanghai, smuggled out of China to Hong Kong, with dreams of going abroad to the United States to get a PhD in English literature. While waiting for his visa to the United States, where he had already gained admittance to a small Presbyterian men's liberal arts college in North Carolina, he took a Shakespeare course from a Chinese female professor at Chongji College, or Songay College. Sorry for my Cantonese. At the time, Chongji was a fledgling Christian college that had recently set up shop on Hong Kong Island, and it was comprised of staff who had recently left China. It became, of course, one of the 3 original colleges of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. The young man immigrated to the United States and eventually became a professor of English literature in the American South. That man was my father, who passed away in 2015. I relate this anecdote, not to wax nostalgic about being in Hong Kong over 7 decades after he was here, but to underscore the reach of English language poetries, poetics, and pedagogies in non-English speaking parts of the world, long before the word globalization became commonplace. But of course, there had been an intensive form of globalization since the 15th century, and that had endured for centuries. And that was called European or Western colonialism, specifically in this case, British colonialism, which by 1920 ruled over 1/4 of the world's population, including Hong Kong. Its legacies have been remarkably durable, even if sometimes are often forgotten and or obfuscated today. It is why we have poets writing in English in all parts of the world today, from Louisiana to Nigeria to Scotland to Australia to Nova Scotia to Singapore and so on. When I visited Palestinian universities in 2016, I was struck by how canonical their teaching was and their class, the books, the poetry they were signing, whether British colonial or Norton anthology based. When I taught at Doshisha University in Kyoto in 2014 and at Lingnan University in Hong Kong in 2018, I was again struck by how little minority literature was taught, and how discussions of Anglophone Asian diasporic writing were virtually devoid of discussions of issues of race and colonialism. From my work on English language poetics in the United States and in the UK, I know what a struggle it has been to get poetry scholars to talk about the racialized foundational underpinnings of seemingly neutral concepts of English poetics. From our living and traveling outside the United States, both Collier and I know that we knew and know that there is amazing poetry being written in English throughout the world, primarily in former British colonies. We both feel the need to expand the notion of what English poetry is and to decenter it from a focus on poets coming out of the United States and the UK. Hence the plural word Englishes in the title of our symposium, which quite a few people asked me about. They were very confused, like, why does it say Englishes? But anyway, so I'm not going to say any more, but I just want to welcome everyone here and have Elmo come up and speak next. Yeah. Thank you.
So thanks, Dorothy. And I just wanted to welcome everyone to CUHK. And I think we're excited to host everyone here today because this sort of event is something that we weren't able to do during the pandemic. And so we're excited that we're able to have here in our campus poets and also fellow academics and scholars from the region, but also from other parts of the world. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank colleagues who've been deeply involved in the organization. So I think Dory mentioned some of them. So I wanted to thank my colleagues in the Center for Cultural Studies. So they've been deeply involved in the organizing of what you will be seeing over the next couple of days. So Locus Young, who maybe some of you have met, and also Fancy Fan, and also my colleague from MA in Intercultural Studies, Zoe Lee, is here as well. So I wanted to thank them for all the hard work they've been doing. So one of the things that we are interested in the Division of Cultural Studies, and that's why we're also excited to be part of this event, is that we're very interested in the themes, the thematics of this particular conference. So the conference is interested in cultural flows, cultural interactions, cultural cross-contaminations across different locations. And so that's something I myself am very eager to hear about over the next few days during the poetry readings and also the panel discussion. So again, welcome to everyone, and I wish you a good conference. And let me call on Collier, who'll be giving her own brief remarks.
Hi, thank you, Elmo and Dorothy, and thank you all for being here. It's really nice to have a room full of people who want to do poetry, who aren't all my students. They also like doing it. So to our guest poets, thank you so much for crossing oceans to be here with us and also coming across the harbor, Nick. And again, yes, please, thank you, everybody. Give a round of applause, especially to Nokus and Fancy for coordinating everything, posters, QR codes. They're wonderful. And also, of course, our undergraduates, Lily Chong, Paris Lau, and Roxanne Xing, and the Faculty of Arts and Dean Max Tong, who helped us, who contribute quite a bit of money to make this possible, to bring everybody here and to give us snacks and coffee at the breaks and tea. And it really has taken a lot of people to put this together. So it's really a pleasure to see it actually happening. This is a one-of-a-kind event, as Professor Wong, as Dorothy said. That's very true. But I do want to make the point that Hong Kong is not really a stranger to wonderful gatherings of brilliant poets. From CUHK's own International Poetry Nights, which was my first encounter with international poetry when I moved to Hong Kong in 2013. And I believe Conchatina, where are you? Conchatina. Yeah, Conchatina Cruz was here for that. And so that happens every couple of years. It's still going on, and Dean Tong is largely responsible for curating it these days, so that's still happening in our faculty. We also have the Hong Kong Baptist University's International Writers Workshop, which is happening right now, and there are events that they'll be conducting over the next few weeks. There's also the Hong Kong International Literary Festival happening right now. Thank you for spending your time with us. There's a lot of other things you could be doing right now in the literary world in Hong Kong. But there are also more casual events. So Tammy Ho Lai Ming's Cha Writers Workshop series and workshop and writers' conversations that were going on for quite some years. We also have Voice and Verse, which is a bilingual literary magazine. They host events. We have the very casual readings and launch events hosted by Poetry Out Loud and Peel Street Poetry Open Mics. I have been benefiting from these communities and the organizers for 10 years now, and I know many of you have also enjoyed that. So just as a reminder, we are part of a much larger context of a poetic life and community in Hong Kong, not only with a long, rich cultural history in Chinese language poetry, but also in English. So I'm very proud to be contributing to that with this event today, and to welcome all of these writers to become part of it as well. Those who aren't already, Mary Jean and Nick, know all of this very well. So with that, just a few practical remarks. Please don't photograph or take your own video. You will notice we have professionals here to do that. Thank you very much, camera crew. If you do not want your face to be, caught in the camera, please let someone know at the reception counter. We'll do our best to blur you, but also please avoid the cameras if you can, okay? Please try to avoid leaving right in the middle of a reading. As you notice, the doors are like on either side of the front. It's a little bit awkward, so we'll notice you if you go in and out. But we do have lots of breaks. We'll have a break after this first reading. Each poet, Dominique Choi and Will Harris, will read for about 20 to 25 minutes, and there will be a half-hour break before we come back for a panel discussion. So we do have a lot of breaks built in. And during those breaks, please join us for snacks and coffee down in the sort of rotunda area down there. We would love to treat you to food. And finally, you'll notice some QR code posters. So there are gold ones. The gold ones will take you to a sampler of poems by the poets. Right now, you all have handouts, I hope, of a few selected poems by Dominique Choi and Will Harris, who are going to be reading first. These are not necessarily poems that they're going to read for you, but they are at least a taste. If you go to the QR code, you'll get the full packet, so all the other poets as well, you won't be seeing necessarily today or in this session. The black QR codes are very important for us because they are our feedback forms, and if you fill them out, we can ask for more money to do this again. So that's really how it happens, right? We need to show that we are demonstrating some impact in our community and that what we do makes a difference. And if you can help us make that argument, we can bring more poets and make more workshops happen. So with that, one last thing, we have copies of the poets' books outside. Please take a look if you haven't gotten a chance to do that. We're so happy that you're here. Thank you for coming. And I would like to ask Mia Fu to come up to introduce Dominique Choi, our first reader.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mia Fu, and I am an MA student in English Literary Studies program. It is my honor to introduce Dominique Choi, an outstanding poet and translator. When I first read Dominique Choi's book, I was fascinated by the interlingual wordplay in her book. She ingeniously intermixes English and Korean, creating her own mode of expression that allows us to witness the intertwined history of Korea and the United States. Her major works include The Morning News is Exciting, Hardly War, and DMZ Colony, which received the 2020 National Book Award for Poetry. And her forthcoming book, Mirror Nation, will be published next month, which is in April of this year. Additionally, she has been the recipient of numerous awards and fellowships, including the 2021 MacArthur Fellowship. What are world memories? It turns out to be war memories. As Dominique Choi writes, her poems bring the forgotten war back into public view, exploring the impact of colonialism, military violence, and American imperialism in Korea in an intermediate way. Through the photographs, maps, handwritten texts, and the typographic play, the voices and the memories of the civilians are amplified. Let's explore the histories and the memories together today. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dominique Choi.
Thank you so much. for that beautiful introduction. Thank you for the invitation, and so I'll just start with the reading to save time. I'm going to read from Hardly War and DMC Colony, and then the Mirror Nation completes the trilogy I've been working on for the past 15 years. But I'm just going to read from Hardly War and Mirror Nation today. Because it's always kind of scary for me to look at my new books. I've only looked at the cover so far. Okay, so this is from Hardly War. A little glossary. Me cook, Su cook, Mu cook, Hua cook, Air cook, Beauty cook, Hydrangea cook, Radish cook, Flower cook, Love cook, Mugunghua, 5 petals. Woe are you? It was hardly war, the hardliest of wars. Hardly. It occurred to me that this particular war was hardly war because of kids, more kids, those poor kids. The kids were hungry until we GIs fed them. We dusted them with DDT, hardly done. Rehabilitation of Korea, that is. It needs chemical fertilizer from the States, power to build things like a country. In the end, it was the hardliest of wars, made up of bubblegum, which GIs had to show those kids how to chew. In no circumstance, whatever, can man be comfortable without art. They don't want everlasting charity, and we are not giving it to them. We are just lending them a hand until they can stand on their own 2 feet. A novel idea. This is why it occurred to me that this particular war was hardly war, the hardliest of wars. My father was hardly himself during the war. Then I was born during the era that hardly existed, and therefore I hardly existed without DDT. Beauty is pleasure regarded as a quality of a thing. I prefer a paper closet with real paper dresses in it. To be born hardly after the hardliest of wars, is a matter of debate. Still, going forward, we are, that is, napalm again. This is the big picture: war and its masses, war and its men, war and its machines. Together we form the big picture. From Korea to Germany, from Alaska to Puerto Rico, all over the world, the US Army is on the alert to defend our country, you, the people, against aggression. This is the big picture. An official television report to the nation from the Army. This is Korea. It is one thing better than another. These South Koreans are all right. Woe is you. Woe is war. Hardly war. Woe is me. Woe are you. My father is still alive, and this is how I came to prefer a paper closet with real paper dresses in it. 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 무. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 궁. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 화. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 수. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cook. I refuse to translate. 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 O, over. A little confession. I used to think that my father was a foreigner. I wanted to grow up to be a foreigner like my father. I eventually became a foreigner. I no longer pretend to write in English because English is a foreigner like me, but I still pretend to be a foreigner. Oh, rubbish. Because that is what I am in English. Now I pretend to be a flower. Scribble, flower, because I'm not eternal. I scribble because I'm not ovary. I scribble because I'm not anther. I scribble because I'm not petal. I scribble because I'm not beauty. I scribble. I am a foreigner who writes in English because English is a foreigner like me. I write prescriptions for the injured and the sick. Scribble, republic. Oh, rubbish. Certainly not a daisy. Clozapine. Shitty kitty. Here comes shitty kitty en route to the Gulf of Tonkin or en route to a race riot. That is the question. And meanwhile, discipline is the keystone. And meanwhile, did you see on TV helicopters being ditched into the sea? That is also my film. And meanwhile, all refugees must be treated as suspects. Looking for your husband, looking for your son. That is the question. And meanwhile, she was the mother of the boy, or that is what the translator said. Or, shitty kitty, or shall we adhere to traditional concepts of military discipline tempered with humanitarianism? That is the question. And meanwhile, South Korea exports military labor left over from the war. That is also my history. Or is that your history? That is the question. And meanwhile, chorus, Dictator Park Chung-hee and his soldiers in Ray-Bans. How much? $7.5 million equals per division. Or Bin Tai massacre equals $7.5 million. Or Bin Hua massacre equals 7.5 million. Or Din Ninh Phuoc Bin massacre equals 7.5 million. Or Godai massacre equals 7.5 million. Or Ha Mi massacre 7.5 million. Or Phong Ni and Phong Nhat massacre equals 15 million. Or Tay Vinh massacre equals 7.5 million. Or Vinh Xuan massacre equals 7.5 million. Or mighty history. That is the question. And meanwhile, a riot began over a grilled cheese sandwich at Subic Bay. Discrimination or perception? That is the question. And meanwhile, the sailor refused to make a statement or translate. That is the question. And meanwhile, 26 men, all black, were charged with assault and rioting. And meanwhile, did you translate? That is my question. And meanwhile, lard or Crisco? Aye, sir. Anti-chorus. Kittens in frilly white bonnets, bibs and mittens. Kitty song. Aye, sir. I crazy daisy, sir. I export quality, sir. I grill, sir. I meow, sir. I kitty litter, sir. Sorry, I forgot to say that Kitty Litter was the underground anti-war newspaper published on the Carrier, Kitty Hawk. And from 1965 to 1970, Lyndon Johnson asked South Korea for combat troops. And so South Korea was paid $7.5 million in cash per division of troops. So South Korea earned about $1 billion in cash. And that money at that time was huge for South Korea, and it is what kind of enabled, what is usually referred to as the economic miracle of that time. And this video loop I filmed from The Deer Hunter. It's a film of 1978. And I watched this film in Hong Kong with my father. And this news clip was filmed by my father on the aircraft carrier. So this film is based on that. Operation Punctum. The television in The Deer Hunter is in Clairton, Pennsylvania. Everything is still at Welsh's Lounge. The clouds, the sky, the unlit neon sign outside the window. All is calm, all is bright. I sing in English while my father is in Vietnam. American wives are in immeasurable pain, and so is my mother. American soldiers are pushing a helicopter to the right side of the TV screen. Behind the soldiers is number 19. It stands for USS Hancock. Its nickname, Fighting Hannah. Helicopter, whirring. It sounds like Godzilla crying. My father is nowhere to be seen because he's behind the camera, behind the lens. His eyes filled with the green ocean. It zooms in on the soldiers, some in uniform, some shirtless, on the decks with number 19 behind them. They're calm and bright, looking down at the flight platform below. Nobody is crying. Number 19 goes beyond Isang's number 13. History is hysterical. The 13th child also says it's terrifying. 13 plus 3 plus 3. 19 equals 13. A modest shared hallucination. I'm still the 13th child, and Godzilla is still crying. Hannah ditches the helicopter in the sea. Now everything is happening on the left side of the screen. Nobody's in the cockpit of the helicopter. The chopper blades tilt, making a diagonal line across the entire screen. That strange cry, it wants to go home. Oh, like me, like my father. Now the helicopter and its blades are perfectly vertical to the South China Sea. The chopper is now engulfed by the sea, white with foam. Sayonara, Saigon. This seems to be the last chapter in the history of American involvement in Vietnam. Now everything appears in the center of the screen. Helicopter is everything. Hannah is everything. My father's framing never sways, even when flowers call to him. He edits as he films, he often told me. He's still nowhere to be seen, missing in action somewhere in Cambodia, filming carpet bombing, my mother said. Oh, the chopper's belly convulses. Oh, it's in immeasurable pain. The chopper's door opens and the pilot and men in white shirts and dark pants spill out. It's also been the largest single movement of people in the history of America itself. The chopper's blades are swirling in every frenzied direction. Oh, suicidal lines. Sayonara, Saigon. Hillary Brown, ABC News aboard the attack aircraft carrier USS Hancock in the South China Sea. White with foam. Now I see buttons on history's blouse. So this is from DMC Colony. It's made up of, I think, 7 sections. So this is from the first section, Sky translation. The Korean demilitarized zone is approximately 160 miles long and 2.5 miles wide. The DMZ runs across the 38th parallel, a division created after World War II with the end of the 35-year-long Japanese occupation of Korea. The US occupied the south and the Soviet Union the north. The US still occupies South Korea with military installations, bases, and troops. The Korean border is one of the most militarized borders in the world. On February 23, 2018, the day of my poetry reading with Daniel Buzutsky at the Pulitzer Arts Foundation, I walked across Forest Park in St. Louis, Missouri. I was heading toward the St. Louis Art Museum. I heard a kind of muted, distant calling, a polyphony of cries. Because I had never heard the flock calls of snow geese before, I was baffled by the flood of sound, seemingly from nowhere and everywhere. Instinctively, I turned my head from side to side, then up. My head tilted back triggered vertigo, a common symptom of Meniere's disease. My ears flapped about dizzyingly like a sparrow and followed the migrating snow geese above. The geese promptly instructed me a chorus. Return, 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 return. Return, 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 return. Return, 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 return. Then they flew even higher out of my ear's reach. The snow geese must have felt sorry for the homesick sparrow from a faraway place, for they dropped me a little line from the sky. See you at DMC. Alone again, I could only chirp to myself. Translator for hire, hire, hire me. This section is from Wings of Return, and when in 2016, while I was in Seoul, I just sort of accidentally got to meet a former political prisoner. And so this is based on his experiences of being imprisoned for over 4 decades. In winter, the guards opened all the windows and doors of my cell and sprayed water. I was stripped. The cell turned into a freezer. I could endure the cold for 6 days. I squatted, jumped to keep warm. I was exhausted in the morning, without food. On day 7, I leaned against the ice wall and passed out. I heard a siren. Then I heard the vowels from my own mouth. O, E, A, E, I, E, 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 E. My face, browless, earless. My eyes, my nose, my mouth, moonless. My comet. The guards aimed a jet of cold water at my forehead, full force. It looks like nothing, yet it felt as if my head was being bashed with a rock. My toenails fell off. They kept hitting my toes. Unbearable pain. My toenails fell off twice. A siren, full speed, full orbit, full matter, full toenails. Then I heard my vowels. O, E, A, E, I, E, 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 E. Then we knew G, H, Ro, toward global humanity. Mirror words come out of my thoughts about translation. Translation is a mode, equals translation is an anti-neocolonial mode. I obsess about order words that are given in our society. In 1945, it took less than 30 minutes for order words to be carried out to divide the country I was born in along the 38th parallel north. Order words compel division, war, and obedience around the world. But other words are possible. Translation as an anti-neocolonial mode can create other words. I call mine mirror words. Mirror words are meant to compel disobedience, resistance. Mirror words defy neocolonial borders, blockades. Mirror words flutter along borders and are often in flight across oceans, even galaxies. Mirror words are homesick. Mirror words are halo. Mirror words are orphaned words. Now look at your words in the mirror. Translate, translate. Did you? Do it again. Do it. the consonants and the vowels, they make up a line, kakka ke omnyong imnika, which means Your Excellency is at martial law. And I was inspired by what South Korean poet Kim Hae-soon, who I translate, said about vowels. She said, "It may be that women's or death song is sung only in vowels without the consonants." So I just only translated the vowels in this piece. Sky similes for snow geese. Kiok, consonant. Ah, vowel. Return, black-faced spoonbill, return. Kiok, consonant. Heard, consonant. Ah, vowel, return. Red-crowned crane, return. Kiok, consonant. Ye, vowel. Return, white-naped crane, return. Eared, consonant. Aw, vowel. Sparrow, what took you so long? Meared, consonant. Reared, consonant. Yaw, vowel. During the Korean War, cranes had no place to land. Eared, consonant. Eared, consonant. E, vowel. North, south, north. Peered, consonant. Neared, consonant. E, vowel. Dead, dead, dead. Geared, consonant. Ah, vowel. Sky, sky, sky. Thank you.